Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning from wherever you're joining from. Thank you so much for joining this information session for the National Impact Challenge Bold Innovations for Living Pitch competition. My name is Claire Gapare, and I am a project manager at the Future of Aging team at SC Health. And we're really honored to be partnering on this pitch competition with AgeWell. Later on, I'll hand over to Mike from AgeWell to give a few welcome remarks. But these two organizations, we've decided to embark on this venture together so that we can accelerate groundbreaking solutions that support older adults and caregivers in Canada. And particularly for the Future of Aging team at SC Health, we are really focused on social impact, and this unique social impact lens allows us to unlock opportunities, connect people, invest, and ultimately scale trailblazing ideas and initiatives. And I'm sure all of us here can agree that we're all getting old every minute, every single day. And it's important that we build a holistic world where we can all age with autonomy, with choice, with independence, and in the place of our choosing. So we truly hope that this venture will be a stepping stone in helping us bust silos and bring together startups, community organizations, youth organizations, student groups to really reimagine how we can get older and thrive. So I'll pass over to Mike from AgeWell to say a few words before we continue with our agenda for the day.
Thank you, Claire, and thanks everyone for taking the time to join today. Hopefully you'll be able to get everything you need from this session. I just wanted to echo the sentiments of Claire. We're really excited to be working with SC Health on this competition this year. You know, the National Impact Challenge is a competition that AgeWell has held many years prior, and it's always been focused on entrepreneurs and startups, and we still have that stream here. But what's really exciting is to now have an additional stream for organizations working in the community, as well as youth-based organizations to get engaged and provide their innovative ideas for support through the competition. So we're really excited about that and finding more ways to make impact with a great partner like SC Health, and looking forward to the whole process, as well as all of the exciting ideas that are going to come forward from all of you and those across Canada.
Thanks a lot, Mike. So for today, our agenda is we'll first do an overview of what the pitch competition is about, the themes, the prizes, the deadlines, the eligibility criteria, and then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. But as we're going through the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. I think there's also the Q&A portion on Zoom. You can also post there or in the chat, whatever is easiest for you. Okay. So as Mike has mentioned, AgeWell has been running their pitch competition for the past 8 years. And for this year, we've decided to come together and do one big pitch competition where we're expanding it to community organizations. So initially, AgeWell has done this with startups. So this year, we are opening it up to community organizations, to youth organizations, to student groups. And this can be people who have an idea, who are at the implementation stage, who are maybe also at the scale-up stage. So any idea is a great idea. So please feel free to apply for this. And before we continue to the challenge themes, we'll just post a poll to see who's in the room, which category do you fit in between the startups or the community-based or youth organizations as well. So the poll has just become live. So if we can all vote, which category you see yourself falling in, whether you're a startup or you're a community organization, youth group, student organization, a university group. Ali, are we good to go? Can you see the results on your end?
I can. We have 72% of participants who have voted.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just wait a couple more seconds here before we move on to the challenge themes. Okay, perfect. So we'll move on. So for this year, we have 3 key themes that we're looking at. The first one being aging in place and community. And here we're trying to understand how can we enable older adults to age in the place of their choosing. So you can see the different context areas there. These are some that we've highlighted, but obviously there can be more that can go under these different themes. So for example, we've got cognitive and mental health. How can we support our older adults with those? We are looking at products, tools, and strategies to support living at home with everyday tasks, services that they might need, and how we can also build networks and community so that we combat social isolation. And the second theme that we have is looking at how can we reimagine how older adults can continue to contribute their skills, their talents, and years of experience towards a new purpose. So that's the living with purpose and meaning pillar. And here we're looking some of the context areas, for example, looking at different intergenerational programs that are out there. How can we leverage this so that we make sure people stay connected? We're looking at financial wellness when we're looking at that third act, working part-time, mentoring, giving back their skills in that way. And also the third area here is looking at arts and recreation and entertainment. How can we bring this in as well to support older adults? And the third pillar here is empowerment. And it's really looking at how can older adults have choice, dignity, autonomy, and the matching support to age well in their community on their own terms with the resources that align with their wishes. So here we're looking at healthy lifestyles and wellness, gadgets that support that, mobility and transportation, autonomy and independence, making sure that older adults continue to have this. So these are the 3 themes that we're looking at for the challenge. So for the prizes, we have 2 groups. The first one is the cash prize, where the first winner will be given a grand total of 25K in cash and some in-kind prizes. And the runner-up may be eligible for a $10,000 prize. And in addition to the cash prizes, we will also have the winners be part of our post-pitch mentorship program that will be lasting for 1 year. And during this time, we will have one-on-one conversations with the winners to better understand what type of resources that they need. We'll look for mentors as well for them that are really tailored to their need and where they see a gap. And also AgeWell and SA Health will open up our resources, our knowledge, our expertise to the winners so that they can tap into this and help grow their project, their initiatives. And then the last thing in the post-mentorship program is that our organizations are connected with a lot of older adults, with a lot of caregivers. So we'll also be able to provide that end user support, end user engagement, so that winners can tap into that, core design different projects, programs with the older adults and test their solutions as well. And also exposing whatever project that they might have, whatever service that they have to the target population that it is aimed at. So these are the 2 prizes that we'll have. I will hand over to Mike to walk us through the timeline and application process.
Thanks, Claire. So as some of you would have already seen when you'd seen this promote or go online, the deadline is coming up. So it's May 8th and it's 11:59 Eastern time. And just based on past experience, the applications, I would urge you to look to submit in advance and definitely not wait till the last minute so that you don't go over the cutoff time. Also, if you submit an application, you should receive an email confirming receipt of your application. You may not get it instantly. It's not like it's an actual human replying, but look for that email to come soon after you submit your application. And if you don't, you can always follow up to make sure that we did receive it. And so we're definitely looking forward to those coming in within the next few weeks. It's important to note that the application forms are on the page, and there's one for startups applying for the startup stream, as well as the other one for the community organizations as well. So you can look at that application depending on which stream you fall into. You'll also note in the application that there are some word limits as well to abide by. And I would just want to point out, I think the terms and conditions document, which lays out some of the requirements for the application, as well as some of the criteria that reviewers and judges will be using, is your friend in some ways, to take a look at that and be aware of what's being considered for your applications. And that includes for the video. For example, one of the pieces that's important to note is the video is also a way for the reviewers to see the kind of ability to deliver a pitch of the finalist. And so we're not looking for ads or like a pre-produced video where we don't see a potential person that would pitch on screen. We do want to in some way see them there or have them deliver a pitch in that video. You could use some slides or other things in there, but just to make sure that's not a kind of like a pre-recorded or professionally produced video that does not include a person who would be pitching. So things like that are captured in the terms and conditions, and encourage you to look at those. The pitch night is more of like a late afternoon into evening pitch session that's going to take place on June 22nd. It'll be in person in Toronto. And for the companies and for the startup, for the community organizations or youth-led groups that are selected, there will be 2 sets of pitches for each. So I know it's listed there as a 5-minute pitch and a 5-minute Q&A. So there will essentially be 2 finals. So there will be 4 finalists presenting in the category of the community organizations and the youth-linked groups in one of those, and then a separate one, each having 4 finalists, but a separate one with 4 finalists for the startup pitches. And the way it'll work is you'll have 5 minutes to pitch, and then there will be 5 minutes where there will be a judging panel that decides on the winner, that gets to ask any questions. And we do require those who are selected as finalists to be able to make it to the pitch night to deliver those pitches as well. Next slide. So I won't go over in great detail. As I mentioned, you can find more of this online and in the terms and conditions, but did want to say that we are looking for those startups, community-based and youth-serving organizations. We're also looking at those that are based in Canada as well. And you must have a Canadian resident that's in a leadership position. We're also looking for the person pitching to be in the age of majority for their region. And of importance, we've been holding this competition for a number of years. If someone has won the National Impact Challenge before, then unfortunately they would not be eligible to be a finalist. In addition to that, we are going to look to see you only submit 1 application. If you have multiple ideas, that's great, but we're looking for 1 application per organization. And we're also looking for those who are selected to be willing to take part in the mentorship and continued engagement with us, which really is a benefit, but it is something that we will require. And I think I'll leave it there for the eligibility. I think you'll find this information in a number of places, but just be sure to be aware of those eligibility requirements. So with that, I would like to close off by thanking our sponsors here. And that includes our presenting sponsors at Spotlight Development and the Ontario Brain Institute, our silver sponsor at the Centre for Aging and Brain Health Innovation, or CABI, as well as our supporting sponsors at Sodexo, Bearskin and Par, and Spaces. And I'll just make a note that for Bearskin and Par, they are providing part of the in-kind prize, and those are some IP vouchers that can be used for a number of items related to the protection of IP or any IP-related considerations. So I'll leave it at that, and I think, Claire, we're going to open it up to any Q&A.
Yes, so we're going to open it up to some questions. We have some questions in the chat. So the first one says, we just found out about this. This is from Community Organization Stream. This doesn't give us much time. It's about the deadline that is coming up on May 8th. And the question is if we can extend the deadline. From my side, I think, yes, we can extend the deadline, but I don't think we'll be able to extend it by that much. It will probably be the next week. If it's not the 8th, then it would be the 15th. That would give an extra week to submit applications for the community organizations. So we'll try to take that into consideration, and I hope that this will be enough time. But if you still want to apply and you're having challenges meeting that deadline, please let us know.
Yeah, I think I would just add there, I think it'll be important for you to reach out to us directly in advance for us to get a sense of it. One of the considerations you should be aware of is we are looking to hold that in-person event, and it's a national competition that will have applicants from across Canada, which means we will need enough time for reviewers to go over all the applications and then give any finalists enough time to arrange for travel. So we certainly want to support anyone looking to apply. And if there are ways we can clarify any questions or whatever the case may be in advance of the current deadline, then that's what we want to do. I can say, as Claire indicated, there may be a possibility for a little bit of an extension, but it probably won't be significant. So most likely the best approach is to engage with us, reach out and see how we can answer any questions and help facilitate your application so that you would be able to make it for the deadline as it stands, or maybe for a short extension.
Great. So the next question is from Margaret. It's about the definition for community-based organization and asking if predominantly seniors populations would like to pitch an idea for aging in community, would such an organization structure qualify? So the answer to that is yes, they would qualify in the community category, so they should feel free to apply. And for the definition for community-based, we're looking at organizations, groups that are working with the target population. So that directly working with older adults, directly working with caregivers. So as long as you're doing that and there's a direct relation there, that would count as the community-based organizations. So yes, they can apply. And also in addition to that, like I was saying, even if it's an idea you haven't started implementing, it's just at the idea stage, you would still be eligible to apply for the competition. So please do apply. So the next question is from Ed, asking, could you clarify the eligibility criteria for existing community organizations who are scaling? So the criteria, if you go in the terms and conditions on the website, the criteria for community organizations is there. I'm just pulling it up so that I can pop it on the screen right now. Just a second.
But I will, while Claire does that, Ed, I will say that certainly organizations or community organizations that already exist and are maybe looking to scale a new offering, they would be eligible. It's not not to give the impression this is only for brand new organizations that are just forming. It certainly could be for those that already exist.
Absolutely. Thanks for clarifying that, Mike. Okay. So this is the criteria that we'll be using. So I'll just quickly go over it so that we make sure we're on the same page. So here we're looking at the uniqueness of the project, particularly since this is a community-based organization, the uniqueness of the project that you have and who you're targeting, what the need is. And if you're disseminating it, what's the dissemination plan? If you're trying to scale it, what's the scaling plan? And we're looking at what if this would be sustainable in the long run, the competitive advantage. This is more for startups, but we're also looking at the impact that the project will have, the social, the economic, the health impact, and who the team members are, and how you've actually engaged and worked with older adults, particularly if you're at the point of scaling up. I'm assuming that you've been engaging with older adults, so that's something that we would be looking for. And then for this next one, this is mainly for startups. That's why it says where applicable. And then we're also looking at how you intend to use the funds that you're receiving, what milestones you have, and what impact this award would have on you. And the last one, which applies to community organization, is looking at your ability to give an effective speech, which will be evaluated based on the video submission. So I hope that's helpful. Okay. So you can find this information in the terms and conditions. If you go in there, you should be able to see it.
I just want to make a quick note before we go on to other questions, Claire. I know someone asked if the slides that we presented will be shared after. They will be. So in case anyone didn't see an answer, they will be shared.
Thanks, Mike. So the next question is from Irene saying, we're a post-secondary student group who is very interested in this challenge, but since we aren't an organization or business yet, would we be eligible? So the answer to that is yes, you'd still be eligible. We've been doing a huge reach out to universities, to different student groups. So you would fall under the community, youth group, student category. So yes. And then the next question is, do we need to spend video time to introduce the organization, or can we jump into the problem and solution? Mike, I'll pass that over to you.
Yeah, so, to some extent, what you include in the video is up to you, although I would always recommend to kind of look at the criteria that are in the terms and conditions. But essentially, you want to deliver something that's compelling, and you definitely want to make sure there's enough time for the problem and solution, rather than really for that video, you have kind of like elevator pitch time. It's only 2-minute video. And again, we do ask you not to go over that, as it may impact how your submission is reviewed. And that might mean that you will reduce how much time you spend speaking about the company or the organization versus the problem and the solution you're providing. It's kind of up to you how you break that down, but certainly you want to make sure that you engage your audience or the reviewer with what you're doing and the need for what you're doing as well.
Perfect. The next question, again, I'll defer to you, Mike. It says, I read somewhere that for startups, you suggest current or potential to age tech sector. Does this mean it should be a tech innovation?
Yeah, so for the startups, what we're looking is that there is a technology involved or a service that leverages a technology. And it doesn't have to be a technology that was developed explicitly for older adults or caregivers. It could be a technology or technology-based service that could be applied to benefit older adults and caregivers, and so it would be open for both. But that is the kind of focus of the competition, is to support startups, at least for that stream, startups that are developing new innovations in terms of technologies, or again, like I said, services that leverage technologies to benefit older adults and caregivers, or that could be applied towards that benefit.
Perfect, great. So the next one is from Janet. It says, for those of us who don't live in Toronto, does your organization help with travel for the finals?
So I'll start there. So yeah, Janet, that's a good question. Obviously, we understand the challenges that can be in place for travel. It's something that I think we'd be open to exploring in some cases for finalists. So we can't guarantee that there would be significant support for travel, but we certainly would engage with those who are being considered as finalists to see if there is some support needed there and what can be done.
Perfect. And then this one is Emily, a past participant of the National Impact Challenge. The question is, if we won 5 years ago and are releasing new products, can we reapply for this year's competition?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's a new product. I mean, especially if the new products are different or significantly different than what was pitched before. I will probably confirm if you want to reach out to me directly, but I can confirm that it's possible that you would still be eligible. You just need to maybe understand a little bit more, and happy to confirm that and discuss it offline.
Great. So the next one is, many are also virtual communities. I think this is for the community category. Is this acceptable? Yes, even virtual communities can apply because the world now is evolving, everything is done virtually. So yeah, absolutely, they can apply for that. And then the next one is about travel assistance. We've already answered that. Next question is, should the pitches be directed for seniors living in the community only, whether independently or with home care services, or also directed for seniors in retirement homes or communities, assisted living facilities, and nursing homes? Mike, would you want to take that up for startups? Yeah.
Yeah, the pitches should be directed to anywhere older adults live and also where caregivers or care partners are supporting them. It doesn't have to be in a specific type of setting. It's really in any kind of environment where older adults, again, or caregivers can benefit from the solution. So yeah, don't have to direct it specifically to senior living.
Yeah. And then the next one is from Trina saying, based on the fact the video submission requirement is not to be longer than 2 minutes, if we went over the 2 minutes, e.g. by a few seconds, would our application be disqualified?
Yeah, Trina, I mean, we really, I'll put it this way. I mean, we do give a requirement for it to be 2 minutes or less. And you can consider, based on past years, some of these applications are extremely competitive. There are a lot of really strong applications, and you know, it can be difficult to sometimes break a tie. So if you're able to not go over by a few seconds, you're certainly reducing a risk of things like tiebreakers. But it is quite possible for a submission to be cut off or disregarded if it goes far over. So it's just safer to find a way to be within those 2 minutes for those reasons, I would say.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. And then the last question we have here is, how much do we talk to the strength of the team? How does the panel want this represented or demonstrated? Any thoughts or ideas are welcome.
Yeah, so I can start there if it's okay, Claire. It is, you know, how much you talked about it. There's, you know, respective sections in the written application where you'll get to cover it. And if we're talking about the video, you know, again, you have to balance it out. It is one of the key pieces of the proposal. But basically, we need to understand who's on the team and is it the right team. And even when you have gaps, you know, do you have maybe plans for addressing those gaps in the team? And then the other part of that is if there's a way to give a sense of how committed or dedicated the team is, that's always important, especially in competitions like this where you often have more early stage ideas coming in. So I would say my main points there would be, you know, show the strengths, show you have a plan for addressing any gaps, and definitely any way you can show the commitment to this venture idea, whatever the case may be. Those are the things you'll probably want to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Great. And another question, how do you define older adults? Is it those 65 years of age and older?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for age well. I mean, depending on what setting we're working in, I understand that that number of 65 and up, but for age well, we've certainly supported projects and worked with a number of stakeholders where older adults are identified as being younger than that, for example, 55 plus, 50 plus. So I wouldn't worry too much about the age, and you know, kind of like a cutoff for the age there. More about showing that this supports healthy aging and aging in some way, and again, also in some cases, caregiving for those who are aging.
Perfect, great. Okay, one more question. Can you share who the judges are? If you can't provide specific, which organizations are they from? What are their backgrounds?
Yeah, well, I'll say for the reviewers of the applications, we wouldn't be able to share them their names other than to say that we'll have representation from different kind of experts in the field of aging and innovation, or in some cases aging and technology. They won't necessarily always be from specific sectors. Obviously, we'll need applications reviewed from people who have kind of a holistic view, but also expertise in aging and innovation. When it comes to the judges for the final pitches, you'll likely hear about them in advance. They haven't all been selected yet, so we can't share them at this time.
Great. Any other questions?
I think I'll just add, I'm sure Claire would have said the same, is that if questions come up beyond this, please don't hesitate to reach out. This isn't your only chance to ask those questions. So do reach out to us and we'll get you answers and support. And again, I know that question going back, I think that was the first question about the deadline. I think nothing that we said here should indicate that there's a certainty with a possible extension. So do your best to work with the deadline that's there. And like I said, reach out to us, let us know your concerns and issues. But obviously, I know that's tight. It's a tight timeline. The application itself isn't one of those huge grant proposals you're writing. It's quite light in terms of what's required. So we hope that with our support, you can do your best and make the deadline that's there and reach out to us otherwise.
Okay. So we have a question. How long after submissions of video and applications would we hear if we've qualified for the next stage?
Yeah, I think what I guess speaking for having run this competition before, but in this case, because we have two streams, I'll kind of adjust my answer. I think we'll aim for 2 to 3 weeks after the deadline. Again, it's kind of hard to say. It depends on how many submissions come in. And sometimes just how competitive all of them are, but we'll try to do it somewhere in that time frame to give people hopefully up to 4 weeks in advance of the competition. But again, that's our goal.
Great. And then for community-based stream, does the innovation have to involve intergenerational components? So the answer is no, it doesn't have to involve intergenerational components, but if they are intergenerational components, please highlight those. But it's not a requirement for you to be able to be eligible to submit an application. Perfect. Okay, great. So thank you all for joining. I'm still going to stay on the call for the next few minutes. So if there are more questions that pop up, please just put them in the chat and then I'll do my best to respond. We will share the slide deck that we presented after the session. And if you can also help us to just spread the word and share this with your network and your contacts, that will be great. All right. So if there aren't any other questions, thank you so much everyone for joining. I will stick around for a little bit longer if there are people who have other questions. Thank you. Okay, we do have a question. Do you recommend we add captions to our video? Mike, we can't hear you. I think you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I was going to say that it's not a requirement, but if you're able to, it's can sometimes be a nice to have, but it's not required for the video.
And the next one is, can you speak more about the extent of technology in the project?
So I'll see if I understand that correctly, and maybe I'll speak more from the startup side, and then Claire, if you want to add for the community side. For the startup side, the startup would be either developing some kind of technology, whether it is hardware-based, a digital solution, digital health, or maybe, like I said, hardware, like a wearable, a smart home, Internet of Things, assistive device, whatever. Like, there's really a whole range of pieces there. Or, like I said, sometimes it's a service that's delivered with support of a technology, usually some kind of software platform or something like that your startup is developing as well. That's the extent of it is meaningful. It's not just a trivial involvement of technology, at least for the startup side. But I'll let Claire speak to the community side.
Yeah, so for the community side, I would say it has to be at some point, maybe you've developed something, because if it's still an idea of how you'd want to, of what the technology would be, yes, you can still apply. You just have to prove it within your application that you have the team in place to support the execution and bring that technology to life. So that's what I would say for the community organizations there. Okay. All right. Another question for Margaret. So I heard that with tech innovation that the Agewell SC Health would help with tech design or development based on the idea pitched. Is this correct, or is it a misunderstanding? Meaning, if a project or idea does not have tech skills, would they be support on this?
So I want to make sure, Margaret, for my part, I understand the question correctly. It is the assumption that if you were selected as a finalist and then you pitched an idea that involves technology innovation or tech innovation, and I assume this is probably maybe more from a community organization standpoint, would there then be support if you're selected? So I want to let Claire speak to it first before I add anything on, but I guess firstly, is that the correct understanding of the question? Basically, you might have an idea or a program in place that will require technology, but you and your organization may not have that expertise to develop the necessary technology or maybe integrate it, and so you're asking if you were selected as a finalist or maybe as a winner, if you could then get that support. I hope that's the correct interpretation of that.
Yeah, she says that's correct. Okay, yeah. So for the community organizations, I would say that once you do the application, and we have the cash prizes and then the mentorship. So the actual execution in itself, that will be your responsibility. But obviously, we have mentors that you're paired up with. If you want to bounce ideas off of them, you can tap into some of the resources and the knowledge that we have within Agewell and SC Health. But the actual execution, that will be the responsibility of the applicant, of the winner.
Yeah, and maybe a specific example there is if, for example, you were maybe looking for a programmer or some kind of an IT person. We unfortunately don't have the capacity to offer people like that to support the development of technologies. But yeah, as Claire said, we may have mentors and people in our networks that can help guide the organization towards that, and maybe even some of the considerations around what to do with decision points on what technologies to work on, and maybe what kind of people to bring on to enable this. So there's probably that high level mentorship and input that can be provided there.
Great, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Okay. I think Claire, we can leave it there, and like we indicated, please don't hesitate to reach out with any of your other questions, and we'll look to get those answered. And potentially we might also look at posting like an FAQ or something like that if a lot of questions come up, so that everyone benefits from all the information that we're able to share. So looking forward to your proposals and applications, and thanks again so much for making the time with us today.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm just going to post my email in the chat for anyone who would like to reach out to us. Just a moment. I'm not sure if I can post this in the chat, but I think I can post it in the Q&A section, and people should be able to seated. Okay. Oh, I'm not sure how to do that. So we'll
There is
send
an
it
email on the
with
website.
when-
We'll get you to the right person.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.